In my A2 production portfolio, I decided to create a newspaper product with the ancillary tasks of a poster and a radio advertisement. After evaluating my own newspaper product against a real media product, I found that I used and challenged conventions of real newspaper products. Firstly, I found that analysing real media text would enable me to find common conventions and values between local newspapers such as the Sheffield Star and the Rotherham Advertiser. Through this, I noticed that many conventions were used in order to present these as newspapers. The conventions I found most commonly in these two local newspapers were the immediate use of a masthead, date, price, website, and slogan used all at the top of the newspaper so that the readers were given essential information at the crown of the first page. Other conventions that I found were established through the rule of thirds. This technique showed the most important conventions in this media text were directly at the centre. This was commonly the main image, an article, where the image was bigger than all of the other pictures on the page, as well as the headline and the main body text. This was used purposely to attract an audience's attention, along with the use of sans serif headlines, which were normally capitalised for added impact. This meant that the half-lead story was more than likely to be made smaller and placed at the top left or right of the page. In article conventions, I noticed that there were many codes and conventions which were used even by mass audiences like The Sun. These were that a byline was used to show who had written the article and what position they held as a company. A rule off to show where the body of text ends and what page the article would continue on, and other basic things such as the article being positioned in columns and captions being placed underneath or on images. Once I had researched these codes and conventions, I had to state what my demographic audience was. After using JITREG, I found that the gender and age I would be representing would be the ages 35 to 45, and mainly females, as these were most likely to read the newspaper in Mexborough. I found that the genre of newspaper which I catered for was community journalism, with local ideologies, and therefore would present a common news mode of address. After making these decisions, I decided that an institution which would be most likely to publicise my local newspaper would be independent, as it would aim for a specific region, unlike conglomerates such as The Sun, who cater for a wider audience and use popular topics. This concluded that the company Johnston Press would be most suitable, as there would be a gap in the market for my area. As I had researched local newspapers such as the Rotherham Advertiser and the Star, I decided to make a hybrid of the two, which Norman Fairclough, 1995, suggested that these were far from common in mass media. This enabled me to use these style models successfully, as for the front page I decided to style it around the Rotherham Advertiser. Due to my audiences being from the ages 35 to 45, I found that the mode of address in my articles would be formal to fit any other newspaper. This would represent that the topics in my newspaper were strictly serious and would not be mistaken for humour, which may be used through a lot of colloquial language. This attitude can be seen throughout many of my articles, as it follows the conventional structure of a formal newspaper, where I have used opening paragraphs such as "Weather in Mexborough this week took a tumble as many were left stranded with worries of power cuts and food shortages." I did this in order to captivate the audience's attention and encouraging them to continue reading rather than giving the whole story away. Through the use of advertisements, I was also able to portray my newspaper to appear similar to a real media product, as well as representing these businesses to the age group of my choice. As I used the Rotherham Advertiser as a style model for my first newspaper page, I found that this newspaper used quite a few advertisements on the first page. This allowed me to create 3 of my own for local businesses which would encourage readers to go. The first one I created was for a gym in Mexborough, which may encourage readers to join as I presented the price and opening times in a larger font compared to the others. I used this as I found that middle-aged women may be concerned with the way they look and thought this would be a good idea concerning my audience. I also found that I used simple colours such as orange, blue and black in order to seem quite informal and show that all ages from 16 plus could join the gym. I created two smaller advertisements placed on both sides of the masthead, similar to the ones on the Rotherham Advertiser. In my newspaper, these were a competition plug on the right and a sandwich and butcher making business named Pickles on the left. Within this plug, I decided that it would connect with my radio product, and therefore I created synergy within this advertisement as I promoted my Cancer Research UK charity fundraiser by advertising the chance to win a Wii console. I specifically chose a Wii console as I had one in my own household and therefore would be able to take images and edit them myself without stealing Nintendo's original idea. I edited this image by simply using the magnetic lasso and removing the existing background and placing it straight onto the white background for the intended advert. I used a white background so that I could add a large capitalised Helvetica Neue font with a drop shadow behind the word win. I found that this immediately grabbed the attention when looking at the advertisement on the page and could attract attention of an interested buyer. At the bottom of the advert, I also added further competition details in a normal case Helvetica Neue font so that interested individuals could find out additional information on how to win the console. Within the Pickles Farm advertisement, I used specific elements to relate to the company at hand. Firstly, I changed the background colour so that it resembled a light brown loaf of bread. This connoted a relation to their own sold sandwiches. I filled the majority of the space with descriptive text concerning the company. This included positive and persuasive lexis such as, "We use real butter," and "If we can make it, we will." As I progressed through creating this advertisement, I felt that it needed an image to distract some attention away from the text, and therefore decided to create an image of a loaf of bread on Adobe Photoshop. The final outcome of this image did not appear realistic, however it could be suggested that the final outcome connoted an idea of youth through the seemingly animated image. For the second page of my newspaper, I decided to style this around the Sheffield Star. They saw me using conventions again as this newspaper company, like many others, presented vital information such as the weather and the contact information of the company on the left-hand side of the second page so that it was easily found. These are arranged in individual boxes and the information within them depended on the newspaper being a conglomerate or an independent company. Commonly in independent newspapers such as the Sheffield Star, news information such as the local weather, contact and recycling information were situated here. However, in my product, I decided to place the newspaper directory or index on the second page immediately at the top, as this was one of the most important pieces of information, as well as the weather in South Yorkshire and Britain, and contact information at the bottom. Within each of the headings, I used the navy blue colour used in my masthead as a house-style colour, challenging common local newspaper colours. Also, following the Sheffield Star's style model, I found that this conventionally placed their continued and one new story on the second page to complete amends made on the page 1. In this page I finished the main story and half-lead story and sectioned them in order in which they appeared, also using the common body font Pointer to show a resemblance to everyday newspapers. I also created a new story following my style model, which featured an image filling up the majority of the story to attract attention from the continuous text. This could in turn attract younger viewers and not only just my demographic. The images featured on this page were considerably less, and were featured only as Photoshop-created weather symbols and a news story-related photograph. These were specifically added due to the immense amount of text, which may have been overwhelming and unattractive to a middle-aged audience. In this product I found that I challenged very little conventions in the time it took to create my newspaper. However, I found that I did challenge the convention of the use of graphics in my newspaper. This was because commonly in local and regional newspapers, the mastheads appear in bright red. However, I chose for my masthead to create antithesis in order for my audience to be attracted to it. I did this because I did not want my masthead to appear too formal and wanted it to look young for the ages 34 to 45. Therefore, I chose to create an opposing colour which would stand out among the red tops, using a navy blue colour with a meteor to challenge the normal masthead.